If you value your peace, there are things in your life that should never be explained, announced, or defended. In a society where sharing has become automatic, privacy has quietly turned into one of the most powerful forms of self-respect. Everywhere you look, people are encouraged to reveal their thoughts, their struggles, their relationships, their ambitions, and even their pain. Social media rewards openness with likes and validation, and modern culture often equates visibility with worth. But true confidence does not come from being seen by everyone. It comes from knowing who you are when no one is watching. When you protect your inner world, you build a strength that cannot be shaken by public opinion, trends, or external approval. Privacy creates psychological safety. When everything about your life is open for discussion, judgment, or commentary, your mind never fully rests. You begin to edit yourself, explain yourself, and perform versions of your life instead of living it. By keeping certain thoughts, feelings, and plans to yourself, you create a mental space where you can think clearly and honestly. This space allows you to reflect without pressure, grow without comparison, and make decisions without noise. In a culture that constantly demands access, choosing privacy is an act of independence. In the United States, where personal branding and self promotion are often seen as necessities for success, it can feel risky to stay quiet. People are taught that if they don't speak up, they'll be overlooked. But there is a difference between strategic communication and constant exposure. Oversharing weakens your emotional foundation because it places your sense of self in the hands of others. Every opinion, reaction, or lack of response begins to matter too much. Privacy shifts that power back to you. When fewer people know your business, fewer people have the ability to influence how you feel about it. Protecting your inner world also strengthens emotional stability. When you share your problems widely, you invite multiple interpretations of your pain. Some people will minimize it, others will judge it, and some may use it to define you. Over time, this can make you doubt your own experiences. Keeping certain struggles private allows you to process emotions at your own pace. It gives you the freedom to feel without performing healing for an audience. Emotional balance grows when your feelings are not constantly exposed to reaction. Privacy sharpens your sense of self. When you are not constantly explaining who you are, you spend more time discovering who you are. You stop shaping your identity around what is acceptable, impressive, or relatable to others. Instead, you begin to align with your own values. This is especially important in a culture filled with conflicting expectations. One group expects toughness, another demands vulnerability, another rewards confidence, while another criticizes it. Privacy allows you to step away from these demands and define yourself on your own terms. There is also power in being underestimated. When people know less about you, they make fewer assumptions. They cannot easily predict your moves or measure your worth. This is particularly relevant in professional and social environments where competition is subtle but constant. Not everyone who smiles at you wants the best for you. Keeping parts of your life private protects you from unnecessary scrutiny and comparison. It allows you to move strategically instead of defensively. Privacy builds resilience. When validation is not your primary source of confidence, criticism loses its power. If people don't know every detail of your life, their opinions hold less weight. You stop needing permission to grow, change, or fail. You become comfortable with silence, and that comfort translates into quiet confidence. In American culture, where noise is often mistaken for strength, this calm self assurance stands out more than loud self promotion ever could. Protecting your inner world also deepens your relationships. When everything is shared with everyone, nothing feels special. Privacy teaches discernment. It helps you recognize who has earned access to your thoughts and emotions. Trust becomes meaningful again. Conversations become deeper because they are intentional, not habitual. You stop speaking just to be heard and start speaking to be understood. This selectiveness creates stronger bonds and reduces emotional burnout. There is a freedom that comes with not being constantly accessible. When you don't feel obligated to share every update, explain every decision, or defend every boundary, your nervous system relaxes. You reclaim time, energy, and focus. This freedom allows creativity to flourish and clarity to emerge. Many people in high pressure American lifestyles feel exhausted not because they do too much, but because they expose too much. Privacy restores balance. Your inner world is where your beliefs are formed, your dreams take shape, and your healing begins. When it is constantly open to outside influence, it becomes crowded and unstable. When it is protected, it becomes strong and grounded. Privacy is not secrecy rooted in fear, it is selectiveness rooted in wisdom. It is understanding that not everyone deserves access to what you are building within yourself. In a culture obsessed with exposure, choosing privacy is a radical act of self respect. It sends a powerful message to yourself: your life is not content, your pain is not entertainment, and your growth does not need witnesses. When you guard your inner world, you stop leaking energy into spaces that don't nourish you. Confidence grows quietly. Emotional stability becomes natural, and your sense of self becomes unshakable, not because the world approves of you, but because you have learned to protect what truly matters. When it comes to your future plans, silence is not hesitation, it is strategy. In a culture that celebrates announcements, countdowns, and public declarations of goals, keeping your plans to yourself can feel unnatural. In the United States especially, ambition is often displayed loudly. People are encouraged to talk about what they're building, where they're going, and how big their dreams are. But the truth is, not every vision needs an audience. Some dreams grow stronger in quiet. When you share your plans too early, you expose them to forces they are not ready to withstand. Opinions, doubts, projections, and comparisons begin to surround something that is still fragile. Even well meaning people can weaken your resolve. They may question the practicality, highlight risks, or share their own fears disguised as advice. Over time, these voices can replace your inner conviction. Silence protects your plans by giving them time to mature before facing the world. There is a psychological cost to announcing goals prematurely. The brain often confuses talking about progress with making progress. You receive encouragement, validation, or praise simply for stating what you intend to do. That emotional reward can reduce the internal pressure to follow through. Quiet effort, on the other hand, keeps you hungry. When no one is watching, your motivation becomes internal rather than performative. You work because it matters to you, not because others are expecting updates. Keeping your plans private also shields you from comparison. In American culture, success is constantly measured by income, titles, timelines, and visibility. When you share your goals publicly, they are immediately compared to someone else's journey. This can create unnecessary pressure to move faster, bigger, or louder than is healthy for you. Silence allows your path to unfold at its natural pace. You stop racing against imagined competitors and start building something sustainable. Not everyone who hears your plans wants to see them succeed. This is an uncomfortable truth, but an important one. Some people feel threatened by growth that reminds them of what they didn't pursue. Others may unintentionally project their limitations onto your vision. Doubt does not always come from enemies, it often comes from people who care but don't understand your calling. By staying quiet, you protect your momentum from subtle discouragement that can slowly erode belief. Silence also gives you flexibility. When plans are spoken out loud, they start to feel like contracts. You may feel trapped by words you shared months ago, even when new information suggests a better direction. Keeping plans private allows you to adapt, pivot, and refine without feeling like you owe anyone an explanation. Growth is rarely linear. Silence gives you permission to evolve without guilt. There is power in letting results speak first. In professional environments, especially in competitive American workplaces, credibility is built through outcomes, not intentions. Talking too much about what you plan to do can invite skepticism. Quietly doing the work and presenting results shifts the dynamic entirely. You are no longer asking for belief, you are demonstrating reality. This kind of presence commands respect without needing to announce itself. Working in silence also strengthens self trust. When no one else knows what you're aiming for, you rely more deeply on your own discipline and intuition. You learn to keep promises to yourself. Each small action becomes a private victory. This builds confidence that is not dependent on applause. Over time, you stop needing external reassurance because you've proven to yourself that you can follow through. Silence protects your emotional energy. Explaining plans repeatedly can be draining, especially when people ask questions you're not ready to answer. You may find yourself justifying choices, defending timelines, or reassuring others about risks you've already accepted. All of this pulls focus away from execution. By keeping your plans to yourself, you conserve mental clarity and emotional strength for the work that actually matters. There is also a sense of peace that comes from moving quietly. When your plans are private, your failures are private too. You are free to make mistakes, learn, and adjust without public scrutiny. This reduces fear and encourages experimentation. Many people abandon dreams not because they lack ability, but because they fear public failure. Silence removes that pressure and replaces it with courage. Your future deserves protection. Ideas are like seeds, they need the right environment to grow. Too much exposure too soon can dry them out. Quiet effort, consistent action, and patient focus create roots that can withstand storms later. When the time is right, success will introduce itself without you having to explain how it happened. In a world that constantly demands updates, choosing silence is a declaration of self-control. It means you trust the process more than the praise. You value depth over attention. And you understand that the strongest moves are often made when no one is watching. Silence doesn't mean you lack vision. It means you respect it enough to protect it until it's ready to stand on its own. Not every listener is a safe place, and not every open ear comes with understanding. In a culture that increasingly encourages vulnerability as a badge of courage, it's easy to believe that sharing your struggles with anyone who will listen is a sign of strength. But true emotional strength lies in discernment. Vulnerability without boundaries doesn't heal, it exposes. Knowing who deserves access to your inner struggles is essential to protecting your peace. When you share personal pain with the wrong people, the cost is often invisible at first. Some will minimize your experience, making you feel dramatic or weak. Others may judge you silently, reshaping how they see you in ways that don't serve your growth. In professional environments, especially, oversharing can follow you longer than you expect. Words spoken in a moment of trust can later be used to question your competence, resilience, or reliability. Privacy is not about hiding, it's about protecting your dignity. Emotional pain is sensitive. It requires care, patience, and understanding to heal properly. When it's shared in unsafe spaces, it becomes something to be analyzed, compared, or misunderstood. People may offer advice when you need empathy, solutions when you need space, or opinions when you need compassion. This can deepen the wound rather than close it. Choosing carefully who you open up to ensures that your vulnerability is met with respect instead of confusion. There is also a difference between being heard and being supported. Many people listen out of curiosity, not concern. They gather information not because they want to help, but because it gives them insight into your weaknesses. This is not always malicious. Sometimes it's simply human nature. But the impact is the same. When your struggles become common knowledge, you lose control over how your story is told. Discernment keeps your narrative in your hands. In the United States, where productivity and resilience are highly valued, admitting struggle can feel risky. People are often praised for pushing through, staying strong, and not letting personal issues interfere with performance. Sharing too much with the wrong audience can create labels that are hard to shake. Instead of being seen as someone going through a season, you may be seen as someone defined by their hardship. Choosing privacy allows you to process challenges without being permanently associated with them. Healthy vulnerability is intentional. It happens in spaces where trust has been earned over time. This may be a close friend, a therapist, a mentor, or a family member who has proven they can listen without judgment. These spaces are rare, and that's what makes them valuable. When you open up selectively, your words carry weight. Your pain is honored, not consumed. Healing becomes possible because you are supported, not exposed. Oversharing can also trap you emotionally. When too many people know your struggles, you may feel pressured to update them, explain your progress, or reassure them that you're getting better. This turns healing into a performance. Instead of focusing inward, you start managing other people's perceptions. Privacy removes that burden. It allows you to move through pain at your own pace, without expectations. Discernment strengthens self-trust. When you choose carefully who to confide in, you reinforce the belief that your emotions matter. You stop seeking validation from everyone and start valuing your own experience. This builds emotional maturity. You become less reactive, less dependent on external reassurance, and more grounded in your inner reality. There is power in knowing that not everyone needs to understand your journey. Some chapters of your life are meant to be read alone. Silence during difficult times doesn't mean you are disconnected. It means you are listening to yourself. It means you are protecting the parts of you that are still healing. Your struggles are not weaknesses to be displayed for sympathy. They are experiences that shape you, refine you, and teach you resilience. When shared with the right people, they become sources of connection and growth. When shared carelessly, they can become sources of regret. Discernment ensures that your vulnerability serves your healing, not your harm. By choosing wisely who gets access to your pain, you protect your peace and honor the depth of your inner life. You do not owe everyone your energy, your opinions, or your explanations. In a society that constantly encourages expression, debate, and instant response, boundaries are often misunderstood as distance or weakness. But boundaries are not walls meant to isolate you. They are filters that protect what matters most. Knowing when to speak and when to stay silent is one of the clearest signs of emotional intelligence, especially in environments that thrive on reaction. Every opinion you share costs energy. Every explanation you give requires emotional labor. When you feel obligated to respond to every comment, justify every decision, or clarify every misunderstanding, your focus begins to scatter. Over time, this drains your mental and emotional reserves. In fast paced American culture, where conversations move quickly and disagreements are often public, this constant engagement can leave you feeling exhausted without knowing why. Boundaries preserve your energy by allowing you to choose what truly deserves your attention. Not every disagreement requires your participation. Some environments are not designed for understanding, but for winning, provoking, or dominating. Entering these spaces with the hope of being heard often leads to frustration. You may explain yourself clearly and still be misunderstood, not because your words lack clarity, but because the other side is not listening. Emotional intelligence recognizes this early and steps back. Silence in these moments is not surrender, it is self respect. Boundaries also protect your emotional balance. When you share too much of your inner world with people who are not aligned with you, their reactions can disturb your peace. Criticism may linger longer than it should. Misinterpretations may stay in your mind. Even praise can become a trap if you begin to depend on it. By limiting access to your thoughts and feelings, you reduce the emotional noise that disrupts clarity. Peace grows when fewer voices are allowed to shape your internal state. In professional settings, boundaries are especially important. Oversharing opinions or personal details can blur lines that protect your credibility. You may feel pressure to weigh in on every topic, support every stance, or explain personal choices that have nothing to do with your performance. Choosing restraint allows you to maintain professionalism without sacrificing authenticity. You are still yourself. You are simply selective about what you offer and where you offer it. Boundaries teach others how to treat you. When you consistently explain, over-defend, or overshare, people learn that they are entitled to access you. When you pause, stay neutral, or choose silence, you communicate confidence. You signal that your time and energy have value. This often leads to more respect, not less. People may not always like boundaries, but they almost always respond to them. There is also an internal boundary that matters just as much as external ones. This is the boundary between your emotions and other people's reactions. When you stop needing to explain yourself, you stop absorbing unnecessary emotional feedback. You allow others to have their opinions without taking responsibility for them. This separation creates emotional freedom. You are no longer pulled into every wave of approval or disapproval. Boundaries reduce reactivity. Instead of responding immediately, you create space to choose your response or choose not to respond at all. This pause changes everything. It prevents impulsive words that you might later regret. It keeps conversations from escalating unnecessarily. Over time, this practice strengthens self control and clarity. You begin to act instead of react. In a culture that often confuses loudness with confidence, restraint becomes a quiet form of strength. You don't need to announce your values to live by them. You don't need to explain your boundaries to enforce them. Your consistency does the work for you. Peace is not found in winning every argument or being understood by everyone. It is found in knowing when engagement costs more than it gives. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is responsible. When you honor your limits, you show respect for your own well being. Boundaries allow you to be fully present in the spaces that matter most, instead of drained by those that don't. By choosing what you share, where you share it, and with whom, you preserve emotional balance and strengthen your sense of self. This is the quiet discipline that keeps your peace intact in a world that constantly demands more than it should. Doing good does not require an audience. In a world driven by visibility, recognition, and constant feedback, it's easy to believe that value only exists when it is noticed. Acts of kindness, personal growth, and integrity are often shared immediately, posted publicly, or subtly mentioned in conversation. While there is nothing wrong with being acknowledged, relying on recognition to validate goodness slowly weakens the inner foundation of character. True integrity is what you do when no one is watching and no one is applauding. When good deeds are performed for validation, they become conditional. You begin to expect appreciation, gratitude, or praise in return. When it doesn't come, disappointment follows. Over time, this can lead to resentment, even toward the very people you helped. Quiet integrity avoids this trap. When you do good privately, your motivation stays clean. You act because it aligns with who you are, not because it enhances how you are seen. This creates inner peace that external approval can never provide. In American culture, where success and virtue are often displayed as part of personal branding, it can feel natural to share everything. Social media has blurred the line between genuine expression and subtle self promotion. Even kindness can become content, but when personal values turn into performances, they lose depth. Privacy protects sincerity. It keeps your actions rooted in purpose rather than perception. You remain connected to your moral compass instead of public reaction. Keeping good deeds quiet also protects you from ego inflation. Praise feels good, but it can quietly shift your identity. You may begin to see yourself through the lens of admiration rather than truth. This creates pressure to maintain an image instead of living authentically. Silent integrity keeps you grounded. It reminds you that character is not about appearing good, but about being good consistently, even when no one is counting. There is strength in knowing that your worth is not dependent on acknowledgement. When you stop needing validation, you become less affected by criticism and neglect. You are free to contribute without expectation. This emotional independence builds resilience. You can give generously without feeling drained because your energy is not tied to how others respond. Peace grows when your actions are self affirming rather than externally rewarded. Quiet integrity also deepens self respect. When you act according to your values without broadcasting them, you build trust with yourself. Each private act of honesty, discipline, or kindness reinforces the belief that you are someone you can rely on. This inner trust is far more powerful than public approval. It creates confidence that is stable, not fragile. You no longer need to prove your goodness, you live it. There is also wisdom in letting actions speak over words. In professional and personal environments, people are often skeptical of what is claimed but attentive to what is demonstrated. When you consistently show up with integrity without announcing it, others notice naturally. Respect earned this way is deeper and more lasting. It is not forced or requested, it is recognized over time. Keeping your growth and good deeds private also protects you from comparison. When everything is shared, it becomes measured. Someone else always seems to be doing more, giving more, or growing faster. This can distort your sense of progress and turn self improvement into competition. Silence removes the scoreboard. You focus on becoming better than you were yesterday, not better than someone else today. There is a quiet joy in knowing that some of the best things you do will never be seen or celebrated. This joy is pure because it belongs entirely to you. It doesn't fluctuate with attention or approval. It remains steady. In moments of doubt, this private knowledge becomes a source of strength. You know who you are, even if no one else does. Integrity that depends on applause fades when the applause stops. Integrity rooted in personal values endures. By keeping good deeds and growth private, you protect your peace from ego, expectation, and disappointment. You move through life with a steady sense of self, guided not by recognition, but by alignment. And that alignment becomes a quiet power, one that sustains you long after attention fades. Inner peace is not something the world gives you, it is something you build by aligning your life with your values. Yet, in a culture that constantly seeks approval through likes, comments, validation, and agreement, it's easy to confuse acceptance with peace. Many people shape their choices around how they will be perceived rather than how they truly feel. This creates a quiet inner conflict. When your sense of self depends on external approval, peace becomes fragile, easily disrupted by opinions you cannot control. Approval is unstable by nature. What earns praise today may attract criticism tomorrow. When your emotional balance is tied to how others respond, you live in a constant state of adjustment. You explain yourself, soften your truth, or hide parts of who you are to remain acceptable. Over time, this disconnection from your authentic self leads to anxiety, resentment, and exhaustion. Alignment, not approval, is what creates lasting calm. Self alignment means living in accordance with what you believe, even when it is not applauded. It requires honesty with yourself before honesty with the world. This is difficult in an environment where trends, social pressure, and cultural expectations are strong. In American society, especially, success is often defined publicly by achievements, visibility, and comparison. But inner peace does not come from meeting external standards. It comes from knowing that your actions match your values, even in private. When you stop seeking approval, your decisions become clearer. You no longer ask, will this make me look good? But, does this feel right for me? This shift changes everything. You begin to trust your judgment. You take responsibility for your choices without needing permission. Mistakes become lessons rather than public failures. Growth becomes personal rather than performative. Letting go of approval also reduces emotional reactivity. Praise no longer inflates you, and criticism no longer defines you. You listen without absorbing. You reflect without collapsing. This emotional steadiness is a powerful form of peace. It allows you to stay grounded in situations that once would have unsettled you. You become less defensive, less anxious, and more present. Alignment also requires protecting your healing process. Healing is rarely neat or impressive. It involves confusion, setbacks, and quiet breakthroughs that don't translate well to public storytelling. When healing is exposed too early, it can become rushed or distorted to meet expectations. Keeping your healing private allows it to unfold honestly. You give yourself permission to take the time you need without pressure to appear better for others. There is also freedom in not needing to be understood by everyone. Misunderstanding is inevitable when you live authentically. Some people will project their values onto your choices. Others will judge without context. Seeking universal understanding is exhausting and impossible. Peace comes from accepting that alignment with yourself matters more than agreement from others. When you live in alignment, boundaries become natural. You say no without guilt. You step away from situations that drain you. You stop explaining decisions that feel right to you. This simplicity creates calm. Life becomes less about managing reactions and more about honoring direction. Inner peace grows stronger when it is not constantly negotiated. Each time you compromise your values for approval, you weaken that peace. Each time you choose alignment, you strengthen it. Over time, this consistency builds self-respect. You become someone you trust, and that trust becomes your emotional anchor. Approval is loud but temporary. Alignment is quiet but enduring. When you prioritize being true to yourself over being accepted by everyone, peace stops being something you chase and becomes something you carry. It is steady, resilient, and deeply personal. And once you experience peace rooted in self alignment, no amount of external validation can replace it.